The year is like, my son's 13, yeah, so 2010. We were doing a lot of transactions, like probably like 89, chugging towards 100. My wife's pregnant, and she happens to be our operations manager, which is dope because I don't have to pay her. I realize there's gonna be some friction, because when your operations manager is pregnant and about to have a child, and I don't have anybody else to help me, that creates a problem. And yet I was resisting fixing the problem. Anybody besides me ever know they need to do something and they resisted doing it? Yeah, see lots of heads nodding. Yeah. What I was doing was two things. The first one was stalling. I knew there was something that needed to be done, but I was afraid. The second one, for anybody who speaks Spanish, I was being tacaño, which is another way of saying what? Cheap! I didn't want to spend any money. Do I have any other cheapskates in the room? Yes? Everybody should be raising your damn hand, okay? And I didn't know what to do. I knew something needed to be done, but I didn't know what to do. So what I did is and it also wasn't acceptable for me to go backwards, for me to do less. So what I did is I went out and got a really good guide, somebody who had already been through that before, to ask him, what should I be doing right now? He said, the first thing is if you want to stay married, you need to hire somebody, okay? And then he gave me SOPs on how to hire that person. He gave me guidance on what to pay them, right? And now I no longer worry about things like that, as we have an organization that's in 15 states with multiple different staff members and people that help us, and a payroll that's over 6 figures. If you understood what was keeping you stuck, you could accomplish anything that I have in probably less time. We're gonna go over the 5, what I call the 5 assassins of success, or let's say the 5 assassins of progress. With the goal and objective being that once you can identify which ones or which group of assassins are getting in your way, you can unlock that unleash and get your unfair share of the business. Who's up for this? Say aye. Aye. I'm sorry, am I in the right room? Who's up for this? Say aye. Aye. That's better, okay? High energy equals high income team. You've never met somebody who's like, aye, who makes a lot of money, I promise. Okay. So as this says here, first of all, this is the good shit, not the bullshit. Most people teach mindset because they can't teach tactics. Okay? They'll sit in a room and be like, you know, your mind. I'm like, you're an idiot. You got to show me how to do something, bro. Like, you saying like it's all mindset is like giving me a bow and arrow and being like, go fight that war over there. You see what I'm saying? You got to equip me with what I need, right? First, let's define what we're trying to do here. Success is the progressive realization of a worthwhile goal or objective. Notice, there's some key things in this definition. Progressive. Does that mean immediate? No. How many of us get pissed off because it doesn't happen right away? Yeah. Yeah, all the time, right? It says progressive realization of a worthwhile goal. Okay? Being the best drug dealer in town is not a worthwhile goal. Right? A worthwhile goal or objective. Progress meaning forward or onward. Movement toward a destination, worthwhile, worth time, money, effort spent, value, importance. Okay? Now, we can easily understand this. Now, how many people besides me have ever been given a plan, have it stared you right in the face, and did nothing with it? Yeah. Why do you think that is? You think it's because you're not smart?
I'm patient.
Oh, he said thinking.
Fear of failure.
Fear of failure, okay. What if I told you that we're not thinking beings that feel, we're feeling beings that think?
Yeah.
What emotions get in the way from you taking action? Name them real quick.
Fear.
Fear, that's one. What else?
Laziness.
No, what else? It's not an emotion.
Fear.
Insecurity. How many people have ever hesitated about posting something because you didn't like the way you looked? Yeah. Everybody should be raising their hand. You understand? It's not the technical work of how to do something that stops you. It's not knowing that you need to do something that stops. It's something internal. Is this making sense to you? Yeah. Okay. The bottleneck of any business is the psychology of its owner, including mine. The bottleneck of any business is the psychology of its owner. Okay? So, let's get into these assassins. This first one is called the staller. Drags their feet when opportunities come knocking. Okay? You get invited to go do a talk. What is your initial response? I don't know, bro. Somebody invites you like, yo, this listing that's like you've never listed that price. You're like, can somebody come with me? You could attend an event, make an important contact, get on a big stage, digital or physical, to get to a bigger audience, get asked to be on a podcast, speak at an event, attend an event, with leaders around. When opportunities pop up for the staller, they never take them and they never say no. Here's my question. What emotion keeps people stuck here?
Fear.
Fear. So what I was doing, this one used to plague me all the time. So even though my wife is pregnant, I know it's coming, and yet I'm doing nothing. I'm stalling. The staller won't let you make big decisions. I made a decision, guys. I sold back my interest in a company and lost $42,000, and I had to cap twice because I had 17 pendings. Do you know that this industry is set up that's basically contractual arbitrage? They know you don't read ICAs. You don't even know what that stands for, most of you guys. Independent contractor agreements, you don't even read them. They know that. And as such, what they do, they also know that 65% of you, okay, haven't, money's a thing. So they're like, what can we do to keep people from not going, leaving? Let me keep some of their money if they leave. And they don't even realize because they didn't even read it. Isn't this fantastic? But it stops you from making, if I had allowed the staller to stop me from making this decision, we wouldn't be at 325 agents. Does that make sense? The second assassin that gets in the way is called the speed demon. The speed demon makes you believe that you progress by making decisions as quickly as possible. You hire the first person that's standing next to you, your aunt, your uncle, whoever. Oh, I need somebody. I'm in pain. This is stressful. You're a body that is breathing. Come work with me. Really fast, right? And then they forcefully, they try to pick technology and make it work because they picked it really fast. They didn't do any homework. They picked a CRM and they're like, rah, this is going to be great. I always love it when you just get overexcited about CRMs. I'm like, you realize it's not going to help you do any more business, right? You have to actually talk to people. Never taking the time to reflect on the mistakes that they're making. And then they say things like, there's no good help. You can't find good people. You know what they're really saying? I have no system for finding good people. I just hire whoever's standing next to me at the time. And I never reflect. Pain plus reflection equals progress. You know what the problem is? We never take the time to reflect. Speed demon ensures that you keep making mistakes. So here's what I want you to ask yourself. And if anybody wants to volunteer, it's cool. Is there a mistake that you keep making? What is it?
Not following up.
With?
Prospects.
Okay, so you keep making that mistake. And what is the story that you're telling yourself around follow-up?
I need new business, go find someone else. They're not ready yet.
Got it. So underneath it is a fear that there's not enough. Did you come from an environment where there's not enough? Are you afraid of that in any way? Are you afraid of resources and needing to gather them and hoard them up? Yeah. So we all are to some degree. So what I'm aware of is that fear of there not being enough and having to gather up the resources is causing me to ignore the follow-up. Meanwhile, 70% of all the appointments will come in what? Follow-up. But because I'm so I gotta go find, I'm ignoring it. So the next one is the supervisor. The supervisor won't allow you to delegate things. You'll hire a TC, but then you'll end up doing the TC's work for them. He's like, don't look at me, bro. Right? You have a full-time assistant, but you take tasks away from them versus letting them do their job. Can you see how this would impede progress? Because by the way, what do we get paid to do in this business? I know there's other businesses, but in this business, the value chain, what do we actually get paid to do? Yeah. Prospect, which leads to?
Appointments.
Yeah. Lead follow-up, which leads to? Going on appointments, which leads to?
Sign contract.
Negotiating deals, which leads to? Guys, I need you to be very clear. That is the only thing you get paid to do. Anything else that you're convincing yourself you get paid to do is not accurate. Ta-da, you notice the energy in the room? They're like, damn it. I like going to, be with the videographer when he takes the pictures. I'm like, why are you a professional photographer? What exactly are you doing there? I go to the home inspections. Why, are you a home inspector? What are you doing there? How long could somebody stay with the supervisor wreaking havoc on them? A whole lifetime, bro. This gets in the way, the supervisor. Hovering. Here's the next one. The saver. Yep. This one affects the entrepreneur who is only saving money and not reinvesting in themselves or their business. They're stashing away a nest egg. Yep. They never invest in courses, never invest in classes, never invest in staff. Okay? Once the saver gets a hold of you, you created a false sense of security by holding a nest egg because you got a little money in the bank. Right? But our business is constantly changing and evolving. Do you know when I realized, okay, how many people besides me realize that media is a thing? Like it's like important. You should be paying attention to it. Yeah, everybody collectively realized that. How many people besides me, like I was 2 years ago, have no idea how to actually do it? Yeah, everybody's hand should be raised because you'll have like 2,000 followers, okay? It's a fact. So he's like, yeah, it's true. So I realized the same thing. I knew how to sell real estate in high volume, but I didn't understand media, but I knew it was important. See, because our boy here said when he was invited here, the person that invited me had a relationship with, you know what the second thing he said was, I know that guy. I have seen him. That's the power of media, right? The saver tells you to save money, right? Save your money, which costs time. You agonize over a $100 purchase that could save you 10 hours. Do you know when I was in high volume selling real estate, like people be like, yo, we need condo docs. I pay somebody $100 to go get it and take it wherever they need to go versus me getting in the car. Do you realize what we did with lock boxes? Because what would happen is we'd have to pay somebody to go put it on and pay somebody to take it off. My wife, who's a genius, she said to me, hey, you know, if we buy them on Amazon in bulk, they're only 10 bucks, and at closing, we'll just leave them there. Agents call me like, hey, you coming to walk through? Nope. What do you want me to do with this lockbox? It's my gift to you.
Take it. Like that idea.
Right? But the saver tells you like, no, no, no. You gotta like not spend the money, which ends up costing you time. You agonize over small purchase. You agonize over hiring a transaction coordinator. It costs $400 a file. It'll save you like 15 hours of your life that you could be prospecting and finding more deals or shooting content or whatever. Right? It just doesn't make sense. It's an employee mentality. It's like a lower vibration, right? Now, the last one, assassin that gets in the way, is the self-medicator. The self-medicator pushes you to self-sabotage to celebrate and to self-sabotage to escape. So to celebrate, you have a really good month. You know what you do? Have a big meal, have a couple drinks, mess around, right? Go out, yeah, we're celebrating, babe, yeah. And then that screws up a week. Then when things don't go your way, guess what you go back to? I had a tough month, I need a drink. I need to go eat, feel better. So what does that do to people? What roller coaster do they end up on? And how much does this impede progress? Tremendously. Because you're up here and you're high and then you're like boom and you're bringing yourself back down, you're doing all this other stuff, it's throwing you off your schedule, you can't be consistent, right? Then when things aren't going good, you go back to that, which only makes it worse. Do you understand? The self-medicator sneaks up on you in the form of celebration. A night of celebration can easily turn into sleeping late, robbing you of your progress. Do you know I didn't have a TV in my house for 12 years? Do you think I was focused? Yeah. I didn't have any hobbies, bro. There's no fantasy football. No, like chilling, dialed in. Because if you'll spend, I started when I was 26, I'm 43 now. You could literally, in this vehicle, work for 18 years, never have to work again a day in your life. But how serious are you about that? Like, well, I don't know. Right? So not only do we have like spurts of cash in this business, because most of you guys don't prospect regularly.
I think complacency.
Okay, interesting. In what way?
Complacency, like for instance, like you'll have a month that you'll make really good money.
What's really good to you? Whatever you say is fine. I'm just generally
Most
interested.
I've made?
Yeah.
37.
Okay, that's okay.
10,000
Yeah.
in 1 month.
Yeah. And now here's what's true. I think that's, how old are you?
22.
Yeah, I mean, that's fantastic for being 22. Everybody would agree? Look, boys was like, bro. All right. So, and I don't mean this in any way, shape, or form egotistical. If I made that amount of money in a month, it wouldn't be a good month. So what happens is what leads to complacency is I know at 22, you are the fastest, quickest, strongest, and you make the most money of all your peers. So do you know what that means? They all buy your bullshit. If you put on a graph, you have dopamine, time, and then let's say you have a goal out in the horizon, the house, the car, the boat, whatever. Well, as you're moving towards that, you're like kind of going like this, but they're suffering. Because the root word of patience is actually patenti in Latin, and do you know what that means? To suffer.
Yes.
Because if I don't have something, that I'm going to suffer. Dopamine is the anticipation of something. It's not actually the getting the thing. I'm sure we've all like had something and then you get it and you're like, yeah. Like, no, it's the same thing. So like you have this big desire, you get it, and then you're like, okay. It's the anticipation.
So you set higher goal.
Well, so you set a higher goal and then you start the whole process over again. But what he's saying is if you look at the graph over time, the house, the car, the boat, the watch, whatever, like all of those material things in the physical world, you actually spend most of your time suffering with like very small windows of actually getting it. So the idea is there has to be something underneath that's actually more sustaining and fulfilling. Yes?
Yes.
And that is
Exactly.
exactly. And that's really, I think, the combination of the two, which is cool that as I'm saying this, she's going like this, like the combination of the two is, I think, like the way.
Yeah.
And it's the way that he intended.
This is the way.
Well, and I look at our businesses as a ministry. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I have had to encourage and pray. And I mean, I look at my business as a full-fledged ministry.
Yeah, I view our organization that way. That the more people I can bring into the ecosystem, the more I can love on them, help them, support them.
Yes.
So,
I think you feel like you're changing lives.
well, I don't. Well, what's interesting is like I have the good fortune where people will reach out to me and be kind, but what I constantly and perpetually remind them for their sake and mine is like somebody reach out to me like, oh man, you're making such a big impact on me. I'm like, listen, just so you know, it's not me.
Yeah. Good for you.
It's him.
humility.
Like, yes, thank you. Well, here's because I know I could be prideful.
Yes.
We can all be prideful. So it's like him through me.
Yeah.
Thank you. But just know that that's what's really
I
true.
know that
And that, I think, shields you from making what just happened like
about you.
a big deal or about me,
Yeah.
because it's not.
Yeah.
Because if he sees something in me, it's only because it exists in him. Otherwise, he wouldn't see it in me.
So true.
So do you feel like a vessel?
100%. Which is what we're actually asked to be,
Yeah, absolutely.
which is the emptying of self,
Yes.
the dying to oneself.
Every
right?
day.
Yeah.
And
So
it
pick up
doesn't
your cross
happen
and carry
just
it, die to
once.
yourself.
Yeah.
So
Every
that way
day
I
I've
can,
said every day.
yes. So that way I can be a vessel for like the spirit. And then it goes out into the world as an example of his glory, not mine.
You know, my kids went to Spring Hill, which is a Christian camp up in Michigan. Hi, I'm Joni.
I'm Ben.
Yeah.
Hi.
Joni's on our attraction calls. I give her lots of static.
Yeah.
Hence, in a loving, playful way.
And
Yeah.
I can take it and I
Yeah.
can give it back.
She does. Yeah, it's
Um,
good.
When I go to pick the kids up, this was years ago. I've got grandkids now. So much. They would always have a speaker that would talk to the parents and the grandparents that would come to pick the kids up. And this one told the most beautiful story, and this is how I envision it. He goes, my grandma shared Jesus with so many people, and when she died, I just pictured the picture that she painted for me, because she said, I can't remember what his name is, but she said, it's my goal to have a big old front porch and have everybody on that porch that I have shared Jesus with. And to, when they die and they come to heaven, they're going to come on my porch and they're going to say, it was because you shared Jesus
Yeah.
with me.
Hey, thanks, bro.
Yes.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah, and to make it full circle, we live in a world in which we have a megaphone, which is media.
Yes, we do.
And my kind of really, truthfully, it's a version of pride. Because when I'm overly concerned about what other people, like, I think pride can show up in two ways. One is in like repentance, but the other is in, look at me. So me shrinking, and I'm not made in the image of something that shrinks,
Yeah.
is actually like me saying like, no, that's not for me,
Right.
is actually a form of pride.
Yes.
Where like, look,
And
this is
fear.
like and fear. And like, this is like a vessel
Yeah.
that now I can, and it's this vehicle where now I have this megaphone where I can amplify
Mm-hmm.
and be an example of goodness.
Yeah.
Yes?
Yeah.
Thing.
Yeah.
And then you can take, because I thought about what you've said to me. You're like, yo, I was like the best recruiter in like what I was doing before.
I was.
Well, what's interesting though is that it's context. So I was talking to I was given a breakout session, and it was interesting because this guy like wanted to stand up and like was kind of arguing with me about what I was saying, which was interesting that he would choose that time to do that. And he was wrong. But he was saying like, yeah, like I think this is the way, right? Like picking up the phone. And I'm like, look, what I'm aware of is two things can be true at the same time. Yes?
How old was he?
Yes, 65. So two things can be true at the same time. Yes?
Yes.
And because two things can be true at the same time, what happens is sometimes we have a love affair with like our point of view
Yeah.
because we want to be right.
Right.
At the same time, I'm interested in like unemotionally assessing what's true.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So if whatever you were doing in a time perhaps before there were platforms,
Mm-hmm.
how can I do that with platforms? And here's what I would propose is like, okay, we went 11, like think about this. We went 11 years as a company with no competitors. Zero.
Yeah.
We now have 22 models that look just like us.
Yeah.
So what I'm aware of is that is the context with which we're trying to attract now.
Mm-hmm.
So how do I elevate above my model's better than yours?
Yeah.
The only way to do that is
Have them fall in love with us.
with me becoming the type of person that somebody would say yes to without even knowing what it is.
Yeah.
And the way you do that is you...
BBXP to wait to come back on.
Right.
There's no way he could have ever cold called enough
Yeah.
and like, you know,
To find him.
to find me. or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, yeah.
He put out the video and
And it was very helpful.
there's no way I would have ever been so objectionless
Yeah.
when it was time to come over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was no I was like, yeah, that's my dude. We're going.
Yeah, what do I need to do?
Shoot me over the
Send me the text. I'm ready.
Yeah.
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 So, but you see how like in the world that we live in today,
Yeah.
that is the answer to rise above 22 competing models.
Yeah.
Is the best way to show somebody you can help them is by helping them.
Mm-hmm.
And media provides this unbelievable space to give stuff, really good information away for free that's helpful.
Yeah.
I think the challenge is people don't dig deep enough to figure out what do I know that's valuable?
I think what's stopping me on that is, everybody talks about CRMs. I'm just going to be honest. I don't have one.
Yeah.
I use Excel. People know me, like me, and trust me because I'm real.
So here's what's cool is like what's coming to my mind is like the best form of advertising is authenticity.
I know, but I can't help them with.
And that's okay, but those aren't your people. Now you find other people in your upline who can, like find someone who benefits from you and what you're doing
Yeah.
and figure out like how can they, and we're all shareholders too.
Yeah.
So like if they have a question about something, you'd be like, hey, go check out Aaron's thing. You know what I mean? Because we're all part of the same company.
Yeah.
So we can't be like all things to all people.
Okay, that makes me feel better.
So what I'm curious about like utilizing that skill and applying it with media. So what did you do with the people? What were those conversations about? What was your mental maps? What were you doing? How were you doing it? And then how can I apply that to real estate and use media as a mechanism to do it?
Yeah.
Where I can send myself, the digital version of myself, like I don't know who that guy is.
Yeah.
Never met him before in my life.
Right.
He clearly feels like he knows me, yes?
Yes.
But yeah, so how can I send myself in the digital form
Yeah.
to go form relationships with other humans?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. And it doesn't have to be cookie cutter.
No, and I can't wait to like for you to start to do it because I'm gonna be like every time, well, you can't duplicate yourself. I'm like, that's not true. Ask Joni.
So good.
Yeah, so good to see you.
Yes.
I'm hosting you now, man.
Okay, let's do it.
So, hey, from EXPCon Miami 2024, Aaron
Awesome.
Novello.
Nice to see you in person, dude.
Yes, dude.
Yeah.
We hang out online all the time, but
Yeah.
this is why we come to events.
Mhm.
And events, in-person stuff is still a thing.
It
It
is.
still matters.
Yeah.
So what do you get out of events? Because we do everything online now, but you still make the time to come to meet with people. Why?
Yeah, two things. One is you can do culture remote, but it can't just be all high tech. It also has to be high touch.
Yeah.
So a perfect example is that is me and you are on Zoom calls on a regular basis, and now we get to physically see each other,
Yeah. High fives.
and that increases the kind of intensity of the connection and the relationship. The other thing that's true about me coming to these events is that proximity is power.
Yeah.
I firmly believe that we're all one relationship away from changing our family tree for the rest of our life. So I'm constantly and perpetually looking for those types of relationships.
Yeah.
I've probably had, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 of those relationships, and moving forward,
Okay.
my goal is to be that individual for other people.
Love it.
At the same time, if I'm in a position of leadership, I have to be constantly learning and growing and seeking those relationships out. And somewhere like this is a fantastic place to do it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well,
Yeah.
glad to see you in the flesh, man.
Yeah, man.
Um,
I'm a real boy.
you have told your media story before, right?
Yeah.
Like you're into media, you're doing it well, you're teaching others to do media at a
Mhm.
high level. But I mean, what? Not even 3 years ago, you were like, media, no thanks. Like, what was the aha? Like, what was the breakthrough?
Yeah. So, well, I was the guy who used to make fun of people who did media.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like
And-
us standing here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I heard a few things that really caused me to change my thinking, because I think the most expensive thing you can own is a closed mind.
Yeah.
And mine was sufficiently closed on that.
Okay.
And I think there's another saying that says once somebody makes a little bit of money, they become a piss poor listener.
Right.
So you start to get good at something and you're like, nah, like I don't need to learn anything else.
Yeah.
But I heard this following quote, which really caused me to pause, right? Because the way I built my business in residential resale, 2,000 transactions,
Yep.
did 100 deals a year, 10 years in a row, 200 deals a year twice, was through telemarketing. Picking up the phone,
Right.
pound of pavement, 3 hours a day,
same
6
here,
days a
same
week.
here.
And while I'm aware that's true, two things can be true at the same time.
Yeah.
Right? So that does work. What's interesting though is I heard the following quote, which is that if you are a crappy marketer, you have to become a rock star salesperson.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, wow.
That hit me when you said that on a call the other day. I'm like,
Yeah, right?
I was cold call cowboy, man.
Yeah.
That's all I knew how to do.
That's
and
right.
It was like, it changed my world when I hear you also being a sales guy.
Correct.
And I'm realizing I've been running that treadmill for 10 years
That's
now,
right.
man. Like, I don't know if I got another 10 in me.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when I started, that quote opened my mind enough to start to really rethink that space and to go down the path of figuring it out.
Yeah.
So the idea is, let's say we were telemarketing, that's
Yeah.
one-to-one. I want inputs and outputs to be disassociated,
Yeah.
right? One-to-one is associated.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I make one phone call, I get one listing, I get one commission.
Yep.
Well, what's interesting about this space is me and you can do this. I can send the digital version of myself
Yeah.
out into the world
Yeah.
to basically speak to an infinite amount of people, endless amounts of people.
24/7.
24 hours a day,
Yeah.
7 days a week.
Yeah.
And people can form a para-social relationship with me. They can decide if they know, like, and trust me without actually physically meeting me.
Yeah.
And then what ends up happening is then they call me. So it revealed itself to be a superior strategy.
Yes.
And so both can be true at the same time, but
Yeah.
one's more true than something else. And
Yeah.
then I started to see some of the people that are really monetizing attention very well.
Yeah.
And I started to look at them and be like, you know what? Kim Kardashian is not smarter than me, bro.
Yeah.
Like, she just understands attention better.
Yeah.
Or like,
Looks a little better. Too.
yeah. And the Logan brothers, like Jake and Paul, like, they just understand attention really well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're turning that into like enormous, ungodly amounts of money. So the whole intention isn't just about money, but it allows me to magnify my impact,
Yeah.
right? So not only is it a fantastic mechanism for like lead gen, whether you're doing attraction, and it's allowed us to grow to an organization of 356 agents in like 2.5 years.
Huge. Love it.
And I hadn't picked up the phone once.
Lots of the agents, I think it's something, I saw a stat like the average agent in our industry is closing somewhere between 6 and 18 transactions a year.
Yeah.
So with everything you're seeing, all the people you've coached,
Sure.
what are the 1 or 2 things you think people are either missing right now or tripping over or stumbling on? What are the patterns?
Yeah, so one of the patterns is, because with those statistics, is 76% of all agents in the United States haven't sold one listing,
Whoa.
meaning their own listing.
Whoa. Okay.
So that means only 20-ish% of the whole agent population are taking all of the listings.
Okay.
So a thing to be very conscious and purposeful about that I think we miss in an attempt to try to grab money, because we get into an industry where there's no stability, there's no certainty, there's no paycheck, right? So you only get compensated when somebody like signs something or does something, is that we try to do everything, but we're not thoughtful about what's worth stacking time on top of. So when I look at that statistic, what that shows me is a very small percentage of the population is getting the lion's share of the listings, and all of the leverage is on the listing side.
Yeah.
So if I was going to be stacking my time, I would need to be stacking my time on that particular skill.
Yep.
So learning what to say and how to say it, where to find leads, where to get contact information,
Yep.
how to take that from a initial conversation to an appointment set,
Yep.
to a pre-qualification conversation, to a listing appointment,
Yeah.
handling objections, close. That's where stacking time on top of.
Yeah.
And as time progresses, it'll continue to prove itself valuable, because what all of these platforms, whether it be MLS, Zillow, like all of these platforms need is data.
Yeah.
But the data that they need is listings.
Yeah.
And if I can become a prodigious provider of data,
Yeah.
I will always be disproportionately compensated for my efforts.
Hey,
Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I never thought of it that way. It's like you bring the data, you bring the value.
Yeah, so I don't even consider, like when I was listing property in high
Yeah.
volume, over 100 listings a year, people are like, oh, you're a listing agent. I'm like, no, I'm a data provider.
Wow.
20 listings, 15 sales, 150 grand a year. I don't know why you guys think this is a lot of money. Let's do the math on this. 150, you have taxes, don't you? About 50 grand. Now you got 100. You got business expenses, don't you? 20, 30 grand. Now you're at 70. Rent or your mortgage payment, car payment, you want to take one nice trip a year, how much money's left over? Zero! And no government can help you with that. You have to earn your way out of it. So if I go on 100 listing appointments, I take 85, that's, oh my God, look at the difference. 80 listings, 70 sales, $700,000. Same appointments, same time. What's the difference? Skills, bro. Write this down. Skills pay the bills. Amateurs practice until they can get it right. Professionals practice until they can't get it wrong. I should be able to wake you up in the middle of the night and be like, bro, give me your listing presentation. And you're like, hi, my name is Aaron, and I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. And you just run right into it. Or I should be able to bump into you in the hallway and be like, hey, your commission's too high. No hesitation. Not like, ha, 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 oh, I'm not ready. Let me get back to YouTube and shit. Boom, you go right into it. Because guys, these conversations are worth 10, 15, 20,000 bucks. It's immature to not be prepared. Right? So, the listing presentation. There's 3 separate sections of the listing presentation. From the time you hit the door till the time you start to talk about price. Then there's the pricing portion of the listing presentation. Then there's handling objections and closing. Okay? It's a map. You just follow it. Now, I'm curious. Let's say you got on a plane and the pilot said, you know what? We're not going to go with the checklist today. We're just going to wing it. Would you get on that plane? Nope. No. Imagine you went to a surgeon. Surgeon has a checklist. They're like, you know what? We're just going to bypass the checklist today. I got this shit. I'm just going to wing it. Would you be okay with that? Why are you guys okay with going on listing presentations and winging it? It's the same thing, right? And people are going to say yes. It typically takes 7 no's before somebody says yes. And somebody's going to be in control. I want it to be me. So what do I mean by that? How do we incorporate this into the first section? So if you're taking notes, put like from the time I hit the door till the time I start to talk about price. Okay? From the time I hit the door, time I start talking about price. So the moment that you hit the door, all of this is crafted and scripted. So the first thing that I would remind you guys to do, because you're all serious and shit, is to smile when you knock on the door. I had to remind myself to do that. Because I used to be like, here to do business. Right? So you knock on the door, they open the door, you're like, hi, Aaron Novello, nice to meet you. Did you want me to take my shoes off? Why would I say that to them? Because I'm walking into their space. Just being respectful. And if they say yes, great, do it. I'm like, I didn't fucking want to do that, but fine. You know what I mean? But if they say, and don't have a hole in your sock, right? But if they say, no, that's cool, you're like, okay, great. What I'd like to do is take a quick look around the home. Would that be okay? Yes. Why am I doing that immediately? Nope. Taking control. Somebody's going to be in control. I want to be in control. Because if I let them be in control, there's going to be a little fucking dog running around. We're going to be sitting on the couch drinking tea like nothing's going to happen. Right? How many people say to me, sat in one of those couches, you're like fucking, yeah, it's a lovely home, yeah. Somebody's got to be in control. And they're like, no, that's cool, you can take a look around. Now what I want to start to do is I want to start to immediately start to close. You guys wait till the end to close. I don't know why. And remember, it takes 7 no's to get to 1 yes. So I want to get all those 7 in right away. So the first thing I'm going to say to them is like, well, you know, your home is really lovely, Chris. It's tastefully furnished. So I'm curious, when we have offers come in, are we going to be including the contents, or do you want to take that with you to your next destination?
Taking it with me.
Good. What just happened there? When who has offers come in? We have offers come in. It's called an assumptive close. Being assumptive is, yeah, I know. She was like, oh. An assumptive close, right? Being assumptive is a function of confidence, and confidence is a function of role play and practice. He's gonna be like, no, we want to take that with us. Okay, fantastic. And then he continues to show me through, and I'm like, yeah, if I remember correctly, Chris, you were kind enough to share with me that you aren't planning on making any changes or modifications before I start to bring buyers through. You just want me to help you to sell it as it is, where it is. Is that right?
That's right.
What just happened? Close number 2, right? You just want me to help you to sell it as it is, where it is, right? So then we've done those couple assumptive closes, and now it's time to sit down. Again, you need to be in control. Okay, so what I like to do is we can go ahead and take a seat here at the kitchen table. Would that be all right? Because if you don't do that, you're gonna end up sitting on a little shitty couch somewhere, and it'll be awkward and weird, okay? Now, in terms of where I wanna sit where I'm the center. I want the people to be sitting here, right? So if husband and wife, here, so I can direct to both of them. If I'm sitting across from you, what does that create? An adversarial position, and there's a border and a boundary between me and you. I will say, first and foremost, I just want to begin our time together, Fatima, just by saying thank you. Smiling again. For providing me the opportunity to share some information with you and potentially help you with the sale. I always like to begin these conversations just by asking a few quick questions to make sure we're on the same page. Would that be okay?
Yes.
Perfect. So the first question I have, which I'm pretty positive I know the answer to, based on what you shared with me on the phone before we connected, you guys have definitely decided that you're going to sell the home. You're not interested in holding on to it or doing something else with it. Is that correct? Okay, great. And then that leads me to my second question, which I'm also pretty sure I know the answer to, is you guys want to position the property price-wise to sell. You definitely don't want to give it away. That's for sure. At the same time, you don't want to have it sit on the market for 6 or 7 months just testing the market. Is that correct?
Yes.
She said yes 3 times in a row. I know. Shit's a Jedi, right? And then that leads me to my third question. I'm aware I sent you over some information in preparation for connecting. I'm sure you did some due diligence. You checked me out online. You saw track record and reviews. So have you and your family, have you guys already decided that you would like for me and my team to help you with the sale?
Yes.
Yeah. So she couldn't even help it. As we're doing it, she's like, yes, yes. But what are we doing there? Look, 2 assumptive closes. Now I directly ask her if she's already decided to hire me yet. What do you guys do? Pick me, please, 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 please. Look at all my cool shit. Let me prove to you how cool I am so you could pick me. And we could be buddies. You see? Now, you're either going to say, what are her options when I ask her that question, by the way?
Yes or no?
Or?
Maybe.
Maybe. Listen, I love yeses, I love nos, I hate maybes. But I'm cool with either one because now I know what direction to take. You see, if you don't do this and you don't do a close right up front, you don't know what the hell's going on. Mm-hmm. When you ask up front, they might be like, well, we're not sure yet, we're going to talk to
The other agent?
Good, now I know that. Isn't it better to know that now than to know it at the fucking end? 100%. If they say, we're not sure, we want to think it over, cool, I know that, right? But if I don't ask up front, I want to get it out of the way. So we've closed 3 times. Remember, it takes 7 closes before we get to a yes, typically, on average. So let's say she says no, directly, right to my face. I'm like, that's no problem. I want you to make the decision that you feel is best. I want to be clear, that is my intention, Fatima. So provided that what I say makes sense and you feel comfortable and confident with me and my team, that we can help you get the most and do it quickly and efficiently, I have all of the appropriate paperwork with me, and I'm prepared to go to work for you today. Fair enough?
Yes.
Yeah. What happened there? She tried to tell me she's the boss. I'm like, no, you're not. Right? She's like, we're not going to do this. You know how many times people said, Aaron, I am not signing anything today. And I'm like, that's cute. I know you believe that that's true. Right? But I'm letting her know, that's my intention. And along those lines, you were kind enough to share with me that in terms of the selection process of an agent, you were looking for somebody that had a great track record, that had sold properties in this geographic area, had a really good marketing plan, and would communicate with you very well. Is there anything else you'd be looking to hear from me today that will cause you to feel comfortable and confident just to proceed and put me to work? 4 closes. Have I talked about marketing? Have I talked about commission? Have I talked about fucking that I know buyers in Venezuela? Which is horseshit, because you don't. Okay, so when I ask you that, you're like, is there anything else you would need to hear from me that would make you feel comfortable, confident just to proceed
No.
from work? Tell me commission.
What's your commission?
That's a good question. And I'm more than happy to have a conversation with you with regards to that. So it sounds as though, provided that we check off all those other boxes and we're in agreement in terms of the professional fee, which I know we will be, it won't be a reason why we don't do business. I'm sure we'll come up with something that's mutually beneficial to all parties. Then we'll be able to proceed and go to work. Does that sound about right?
Sure.
Yeah, what just happened? What do you guys do when she asks about the commission? Shit your pants. Oh my God, that's what I didn't want them to ask me about. So you're like, okay, great. So at the culmination of our time together then, there are a few potential outcomes, right? The first, which we really seem to be moving in that direction, it's an assumptive close. We really seem to be moving in that direction is that you may decide to list your home with me. And by the way, when I say list your home with me, what is that? It's an embedded command. It's neurolinguistic programming. So when I say, at the culmination of our time together, there are a few potential outcomes. The first one is, which we really seem to be moving in that direction, is you may decide to list your home with me. Do you hear it now? Mm-hmm. It's like I'm commanding you to do it. Okay? And we're really excited to have that opportunity. Again, I have all the appropriate paperwork with me. I'm prepared to go to work for you today. The second potential outcome is there's an outside chance for whatever reason, you may decide not to list the home with me. And that's okay too. Most of you guys would never say that out loud. And then that leads us to the third outcome. And this was just as important as the other two, is if for any reason at all, Fatima, if I feel, honestly, truly, that I wouldn't be able to help you get what you wanted in the time that you wanted, I may decide to very humbly decline the opportunity to list your home. The reason I would do that is I'd much rather earn your business with integrity, being honest and straightforward about what's reasonable and realistic, versus promising you something I know is not going to happen and not be able to deliver. And any one of those three I feel comfortable with. Fair enough? Mm-hmm. Wow. What was that, what I just did there? Takeaway close. We pursue that with retreats. I'm demonstrating to you I'm completely unattached to this fucking outcome. Okay? I may decide humbly. Now, it's important how you do this. If you're like, I may decide not to take your shit, that's not gonna work. You know what I mean? Notice how I did it. Like, I may decide very humbly to decline the opportunity to list your home. And the reason I would do that, and I give them the reason, I'd much rather earn your business with integrity and be honest, straightforward with regards to what's reasonable, realistic, versus promising you something I know is not going to happen, not be able to deliver. Any one of those three I feel comfortable with. By the way, how many of the agents that they're going to interview are going to say that to them? Zero. Instantaneously. I remember being on a listing appointment, somebody's like, bro, we hired you because it felt like you were interviewing us instead of us interviewing you. Great. So what I'd like to do now is just review some of those questions I asked you over the phone, just to make sure that I'm fully prepared and I can do a great job for you and your family. Would that be okay? What is so I can do a great job for you and your family? We're already working together, right? Is that okay? You're like, yeah, that's great. Great. So you were kind enough to share with me that the main reason you want to sell the home, you guys are moving to Texas. Is that right? Mm-hmm. Yep. And you were also kind enough to share with me that time frame wise, you really want to make this move happen in the next 120 days. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. So what that would mean, I was thinking about this on the way over here, is that in order for us to make that happen in the time that you want, we would have to be under contract in like 30 to 45 days. Because it usually takes 30 to 45 days to close. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense to you? Yes. Are you going to need some help or assistance as far as like finding a new property out in Texas? Would you want me to refer you an agent, or do you already have that under control? And then for showings, right? Like as we progress with this and with showings and stuff, like is someone typically home most of the time, or how does that work?
Yes, somebody's going to be home at all times.
Okay, and that individual, would that be you or your partner, or who would it be?
It would be my mother.
Okay, awesome. And then for your mom, to make it convenient for her, we can make it like by appointment only? Or do you want us to call you first and then you'll let your mom know, or do you want to let your mom know?
Call me first.
Okay, great. And what's the best, absolute best number for me to reach you at? We're psychologically progressing it forward. People want to say yes. You just need to give them a reason to say yes. And when we have offers come in as well, right? Do you want me to communicate them directly with you or with your partner, or how do you want that to work out?
With both of us.
Okay, and what's the best email address for your partner so I can send the offers to both you guys?
Yes.
As she gives me more information, what's happening? We're working together. Mm-hmm. You're consuming me more. We're moving in the direction. So now, that is from the time I hit the door, we haven't, to the time I start to actually present price. People are always asking me on a regular basis, who do I use for media, right? Like specifically, what are the tools? And I just gave a talk at EXPCon. They asked me to speak on media, which is kind of funny to me because 3 years ago, I was the guy who made fun of people who did media. I don't care if you're posting on media, but I was blind and now I see. And I recognize that it is a fantastic mechanism or tool to send yourself in the digital form to formulate relationships with people so they can decide if they know, like, and trust you. What I realized very quickly is you need a few things, right? You need strategy, which is story branding. You need tools, which is some equipment. And then you need a team. And the team is for editing, chopping up, and posting. The team that I use are these two strapping individuals from Social Imprint. So welcome to the podcast. Excited to have you guys here and excited to share some information and knowledge with the community.
Thank you for having us on, Aaron.
Yeah,
it's a pleasure to be here, and I'm excited to talk.
Good. Same. One of the things that I think is very interesting is that everybody understands that media is important. Almost uniformly, everybody I speak to, regardless of the room size, whether there's 10 people in the room or thousands of people in the room, and yet they feel super overwhelmed. And I'm imagining, because you guys have lots of clients in the space, myself included, Jose uses you guys as well, and a bunch of other people in our organization that are growing their influence and followings. So if you had to kind of zoom down into a couple things that people need to understand, because it can be really overwhelming, what would be, I don't know, one or two, maybe three things tops that you would say for someone looking to get into the media game and increase their influence that is really important from your perspective?
So to start off, I would definitely say it's coming in with the mindset that it's going to be uncomfortable. A lot of people think, or most of the time people know coming in, it's going to be hard, but in reality, it can be like, how do I say? It can be harder if you don't know yourself, right? Because everything's going to be like a first time, whether you're not used to being on camera, whether you're not used to talking directly to the camera. Those are things that are going to be uncomfortable, but that shouldn't be a reason to stop. That should be a reason to keep moving forward in order to, progress and see improvement, right? So that's just one. Coming in with the mindset that it is going to be uncomfortable. Just having that clear and set. It's not easy, and we don't try to pretend it is.
Yeah, in a breakout session in a mastermind that I was in, I heard something that is really what you're saying, is that awkwardness is the precursor of learning. So sometimes when we're awkward, we give it a frame, and the frame we give it is that, oh, this is bad. When in fact, it actually means you're in the process of learning something. So
exactly,
it's going to be awkward and uncomfortable, and like, that's okay.
Yeah, that's like the number one thing that I would say to start off.
And then even like you, Aaron, when you started, it wasn't super peaches and cream. Everything takes a little bit of time for you to start getting used to. But it's like we've even read in the book, The YouTube Formula. Your first podcast isn't going to be good. Your first video isn't going to be good. But as you start progressing, you're going to get used to the camera. You're going to get used to how it is that you want to be perceived on camera. And then from there, you kind of start getting used to, all right, I'm ready. Let's do this. And I think you can speak, right, for everyone. That's how you started, kind of. Once I saw you, once you got used to it, you were like, all right, this is what I'm doing. And that's when your videos really started popping off, because people started seeing you.
Yeah, I think, what I wrote down as you were speaking is, if you're not embarrassed by your first attempt, you waited too long. So the first podcast I ever did with Jose, like, the power went out while we were doing it. And, we didn't have thumbnails. We didn't have good cameras. We didn't have good tools or good equipment. And I was 42 episodes deep or kind of long form YouTube videos with only 200 subs. And I was looking at our numbers, which is interesting. With your help on YouTube, the last 2 years, we had 600,000 views cumulatively in those 2 years. So let's say 300,000 views each. This year, the last 365 days, almost 2 million views. So almost all of the attention came around year 3. I think part of the reason why that happened is we upped the amount of long YouTube videos we've been posting per week, which, Pineda's team told us was important, and we listened. I know you were on those calls with us.
Yep.
And, we're starting to get outcomes. So I think if it's not worth doing for a decade, it's not worth doing for a day. This is so what you're saying, Letty, is when you come into this, recognize, hey, this is like a long-term proposition, that building a brand takes a while, and actually getting good in terms of talent and producing content takes a little bit. And really, would you say that what it really is it takes a little bit to get comfortable with yourself?
Correct.
Yep.
Most of the time, content creators in general, the people that succeed the most, or that we see, how do I say, people gravitate gravitate towards them. It's people who know themselves and are comfortable with themselves, people who are okay with who are okay with being themselves, right? And I know we say this all the time, authenticity, it's very, cliche, but in reality, the people that show up as them, that's what is the most that's what people come back for. They come back for the rawness of each individual, because that can't be pretty much like copied, right? Editing, all that fun stuff, hashtags, everything that is part of the process, it's an attribution, but the big piece of it is the individuality of each creator, right? What each individual has something to bring.
Yeah, and it's interesting. So I'm interested. I think that that's very true, Letty. And I'm curious from your perspective, Lewis, is that I became very aware at this event that I was recently at. I think humans have a tendency to get lost in like the minutia of things. So they'll get lost in and shiny penny syndrome. So they'll get people are like, oh, like ChatGPT and AI and all this stuff. And then about the editing and the hashtags and this and that. And I'm like, look, what I'm aware of is if it's not informed with a strategy, and if you're not authentically being yourself, because what I wrote down when you were speaking, Letty, is authenticity is the best form of advertising, and that the secrets of life are found in cliches. So even though that's a cliche, it doesn't mean it's it doesn't mean it's less true. Is that if you're not comfortable with yourself and if you're not doing story branding, positioning yourself as a guide to help people to solve their problems, then it doesn't really matter. Would you agree with that, Lewis?
100%. And especially where you come in with the authenticity part. Many people, when they come into social media, they have inspiration of accounts that they want to be like and stuff like that, and they try to do like a copy paste of that. And I feel like that's kind of one of the biggest mistakes that you can make coming into social media, because you have to be yourself. People connect with who you are and who you really are. So Ryan Pineda, Alex Hermosi, Grant Cardone, all those people, the reason they've created the audience that they have is because they're themselves. They go out there. Look what Alex Hermosi wears when he's doing his videos. He doesn't try to dress up and look nice, and I think that's just not him. So that authenticity, that's what people are really connecting with.
Yeah. So what I wrote down as you were speaking is I remember being on a coaching call with a client who's actually a client of yours as well. And he said to me when he was first getting into media, like, hey, it took me like an hour to shoot one thing. And I said, oh, well, I know why that's happening. He said, why? I said, because you're acting. And he's like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, you're trying to curate an image. Like, you're overly concerned about how you're being perceived instead of just being yourself. Because if you're yourself, it's pretty easy to be yourself. Like, I'm an expert. Nobody can be Aaron like Aaron, and nobody can be Letty like Letty, and nobody can be Lewis like Lewis. And that's not difficult to do, right? But it's when I start to try to curate an image, and I think look at the wrong metrics. So what are some of the metrics that you think people look at that are actually not what they should be paying attention to? Because I want to frame that question by saying I think most people just copy, and they're copying with the hope that they can get a few likes and more followers. But what ends up happening is you actually won't get a lot of attention doing that, because you're not actually drawing people to you who are attracted to you because of who you are and what you stand for and your values and that sort of thing, and repelling people who aren't in alignment with who you are. You're just like blending in with everybody. So what would you say is metrics that get people distracted and cause them to actually create content that's not going to get a lot of people to pay attention to it?
But I would say really it's just likes. People are here for the likes and follows, and really those are just numbers. Yes, of course, likes and follows are important, but I don't think it's the most important thing. And then when you're trying to be somebody else and not showing your authentic self, like you said, you're not really going to connect. So more importantly than the number of followers that you have, it's really like, how loyal are those followers, and how are those followers really looking at you? Instead of caring to have 100,000 followers, I think it's more important to have 10,000 followers who are really loyal to you as a person and understand who you are and kind of follow your values and what you stand for.
Yeah, I agree. I also think it's likes and follows that become like they're looking at the wrong metrics. So instead of like getting all about people who have like 1 million followers, instead what you should do is look at people who have 10,000 but build a business that does $1 million a year from those 10,000 people. You know what I'm saying? Like, because the whole purpose is conversion. It's not just like followers. Like, people say to me like, oh, you're a YouTuber. I'm like, no, I'm actually not. YouTube is the marketing division. YouTube is the marketing division for my companies. Like it allows me to send myself in the digital form so that way, agents or brokers can decide if they know, like, and trust me over time. And if I'm the type of guy that they want to invite into their life to help them to solve their problem, whatever their problem may be. And I think that is the thing that gets lost. And the reason why is because I'm focusing on the wrong metric. And then I start to copy everybody in hopes that I get likes and follows. Would you agree with that, Letty?
Yeah, so I was going to add to that. At the end of the day, if you don't have your own opinion, you don't have a brand. And like you were saying, with even YouTube, that's a way of marketing your knowledge, your expertise. But the reason people are, they come back for more, it's because you've established a brand. You right? So at the end of the day, like metrics like following, liking, although it's great, we have to realize when we even view content, even if we like it, sometimes we don't necessarily put like, but what shows the audience, the algorithm that we actually enjoyed it is the watch time, how long we stayed on that video. Did we send that to someone? It resonated so well that we sent it to someone else that we believe it would also, resonate. So those are the type of things that really indicate that our viewers were really, either connecting or resonating with the message that we're putting out.
Yeah. So I wrote
more than a like.
Yeah. And I wrote down two things as you were speaking. One is the most important metrics are not vanity metrics like likes and follows. They're actually shares, bookmarks, and watch time. Because if somebody shares something, that's an indication that they felt it was so good, they felt that somebody else should see it. If somebody bookmarks something, that means they want to come back to it. And then if it's accumulated a large amount of watch time, that means that it was valuable enough that enough people wanted to see it. So it's fascinating, isn't it, that like people are focused on a metric that has nothing to do with what's really important. Now, I believe that what's underneath I'm curious to see what you guys think, but what I believe is that what's underneath most people looking at the wrong metric is precisely that. It's vanity. It's like wanting to get, validation or confirmation from others. And I said this in a room and I'm like, look, I want to make some friends, frenemies, and some frenemies, enemies by saying what I'm about to say. And they're like, all right. I'm like, say you're ready if you could take it. And they're like, I'm ready. I'm like, most of you guys use your media as a mechanism to gratify your own ego, not to position yourself as a guide to help people to solve any of their problems.
I agree 100%.
And do you have to, is part of the challenge, like with clients that you have, is helping them to understand that so they can shift to kind of story branding versus like posting pictures of them working out, which has nothing to do with selling real estate?
I would say yes. And it's not that it's not important to post your pictures working out. It's just that shouldn't be the focus of what you're doing on there, because that kind of shows, right, your personality, what you're into, things like that. And people connect with that also.
I think to add to that, it's understanding that although those attributes, those like lifestyle things, they're cool, but as an agent, if you're trying to use your social media to grow your business, you need to use it with intention. And I think that's where, how you're mentioning your pictures of, what you ate and pictures at the gym, that's not really bringing in client, because you're not putting out what you actually do. And with social media, you're supposed to be using it to pretty much not tell people, but show them what you do, show them behind the scenes of how hard you work in order to get that listing for your client, show them the behind the scenes of going to open houses if that is something that you do. At the end of the day, the mistake that, especially in our niche with real estate agents, is that they mistake that their life, there is no content. They have trouble finding the time to create content when in reality, what they do is content. So understanding that we're not here to have you make content, we're here to pretty much help you be the content, because that's what it is. And that's how people on the other side, an individual who needs more information about a home or is actually in the market for that will look up to that individual as the expert to do that.
Yeah. And I think that I wrote down a few things here. One is that there's a social graph and there's an interest graph. And I'm a little bit older than you guys. And I remember when Facebook first came out, I was in college. And that platform was on the social graph, meaning that they showed me what my friends were doing or interested in, right? Well, about, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago, however long ago, TikTok came around. And TikTok's algorithm is interest-based. And the reason why that is superior long-term is that what Aaron thought was cool or what he was interested in when he was 20 is different than what he's interested in at 40. So the actual algorithm changes with your interests, which means that it's superior because long-term, it can hold my attention for a lifetime, essentially. And when these other platforms like Meta and YouTube, when they realized this and TikTok started to eat their lunch because their algorithm was superior, they pivoted very quickly. So they came out with Reels, they came out with YouTube Shorts, which is on the interest graph. And I think a vast majority of agents don't understand that distinction. So they're still doing media as though it's on the social graph, which is here's me with my kids. Here's me eating breakfast. Here's me working out, which nobody really cares about. You know what I'm saying? Like that, like to a small degree, to your point, maybe 5%, 2% of your content can be that way, but you're not really positioning yourself as a guide to help anybody to solve their problems. And what these algorithms are doing is saying, hey, we all have problems that we're trying to solve, right? And we're all looking for a guide to help us to solve those problems. So what I've been sharing with people, and I'm curious to see your guys' perspective, is if you're not positioning yourself as a guide to help somebody to solve their problems, then you're actually not doing media as a mechanism to grow your business at all.
I agree 100% because like you mentioned, to me, the most important part of this is positioning yourself as a guide, is showing the people like, hey, I know what I'm doing and I'm here to help you understand also. Because for example, the home buying process, that's not something that everybody understands. And the people that do understand it and don't want an agent, they kind of mess up sometimes. So having that agent to show you like, hey, this is how you should be guided in the process. That's to me is one of the most important things when you're doing social media.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that the best way to show somebody you can help them is by helping them. So I think that marketing used to be like, hey, if I can just get Letty to think about me when it's time for her to do something, then she'll do something with me. And perhaps that, works to some degree. I think it still can work to some degree because frequency equals familiarity. What I'm aware of, though, is that the context has changed. So meaning I now have these tools at my disposal where everybody's at. People touch their phones, 150 times a day, according to Google. About let's say an hour to 2 hours of that's going to be on platforms. So what's going to increase the probability that people see me? Frequency, yes. But then also, what are they seeing? Are they seeing me acting silly? Are they seeing me working out? Are they seeing the food? Right, but like what I'm aware of is,
but it shouldn't be your main focal point.
it shouldn't be your main
like
focus. And what I would propose is are they seeing me as a guide to help them to solve their problems? Because what I think the definition of a brand is a feeling or feelings that the brand elicits. Yep. And what is the promise?
I believe that the future of real estate is what you're doing.
An agent will be able to provide multiple options and choices, and whatever option you choose, it's perfectly fine.
I went to the Clever Summit. Pace invited me there, Morby. I would have people come up to me, the wholesalers. I would say, how many deals you doing? They're like 20. I'm like, great. How many offers you making? 300. How many